the Times still is one of those legacy media outlets that still hedges their bets. Like that article, the original headline I think was "We're not alone in the universe," and they changed it to, I think it was like "Black Projects and Hidden Money" or something like that. They had to dial it down.
Well, because they don't know, right? We might not be alone in the universe. These things might be China's. It's not likely.
Well, that's the other thing. If we open ourselves to the possibility that these advanced aircraft penetrating our nuclear weapon sites and our military bases are China, that's fucking terrifying, and that should be the biggest issue of our time, hands down. Because we know the intention of the Chinese Communist Party. It's not good, right? They're not our friends. They're adversaries. And, she has made public statements about wanting to replace the United States at the top of the world order. Like, it's a stated goal, right? So if it is China, even the possibility that they have some of these crafts alongside non-human crafts existing, right?
Guys, thanks so much for joining me. This is I'm John Soto. This is SotoCast. We're going to take a look at this Joe Rogan episode with Dan Farah, I think his name is. So he just did a documentary on UFOs, one of Joe's favorite topics, and I really think that I fast forwarded all the way to this segment because I know a lot of people don't get to watch the entire podcast. So this is about an hour in, and I think that they're talking about something really interesting when it comes to disclosure. And I think they are trying to send a message to the White House. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to take a listen to this. I'm going to break down what I think, and see what we all think.
Yes.
Even that possibility, it requires the U.S. government to take this so much more serious. Here's an analogy that General Jim Clapper made to me. He was the director of national intelligence. He's in the film. He's like, before 9/11, we didn't put the right amount of money towards counterterrorism, and we weren't properly sharing information in the intelligence community. Then this horrible thing happened, and the public was outraged and said, we got to throw money and resources at counterterrorism. Every elected representative was beating that drum. We started the director of national intelligence position so that the agencies would all share information and you would minimize the chance of intelligence gaps, right? Mm-hmm. And we threw tons of appropriated funds towards counterterrorism. We now spend more money on counterterrorism than we even need to. And his point was he hopes it doesn't take something bad happening on this front, like China cracking this technology in a way we haven't and then using it against us, or non-human intelligent life taking an action that isn't favorable to us before we then throw resources towards it. And it's essentially the same thing Rubio said. They think we need to get ahead of this problem, not wait for it to happen and then react to it.
Well, of course. I mean, it would be a horrible loss, both in terms of our national pride of being the innovators and being at the head of technology. If China came out and said, we've cracked this, we have UFOs that we back engineered and now we can fly them around and we can go visit other solar systems.
And we've created a new energy source. We're going to save the planet.
Yeah. We would look like fools.
We'd also be set back.
Yeah, and if we realized that there would have been a bunch of people that were working on this stuff the whole time, but they had been handcuffed by all the secrecy, and that this had all been done with defense contractors and lying to Congress, it'd be a fucking national disaster. We would look completely incompetent.
I really legitimately think a lot of the people in my film stepped up because they don't want to be left holding the bag and have people saying, why didn't you say something sooner?
Right.
I really think this is
because it's that close.
Cover your butt because it's that close.
So when people talk about the successful back engineering of these things, what are they saying? Are they saying?
So just real quick. So in his film is Marco Rubio, which is huge. I mean, he's pretty much third in line to the presidency right now. And from my understanding, from I haven't watched the movie yet. I'm going to, but from my understanding, I mean, he pretty much says it flat out. That we have these things. We need to come straight with the American public. We need to stop with the siloing of trying to reverse engineering these things because it's stifling the innovation of how we can utilize them. And I mean it sounds pretty wild. So I think they're going to get to it here. I don't want to step on them. Let's hear a little bit more about what Joe's about to say.
That they can fly around Earth? Are they saying they can go outside of Earth's atmosphere and go into deep space with these things? Like, what have they said we are currently able to do with these back-engineered crafts that we've supposedly
people that I can't attribute
ourselves?
the statement to that were very credible sources told me that some of the UAP activity in space specifically is reverse engineered technology.
Okay. Does that mean in space in low Earth orbit, or does that mean traveling through the solar system?
What was implied to me was traveling through the solar system.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So are these
Here's another thing that same person said to me, by the way.
Yes.
Before I forget, that their belief is that the technology we have would not be pulled out even to stop a world war. It would not; those cards would not be shown until moments before like a nuclear war situation. So they wouldn't pull it out to stop like any of the wars we've experienced in the last, since World War II. They wouldn't, regardless of how many.
It has to get to 9.
It has to get to a level where there's no other option.
Wow.
Because it show your cards.
Now, when they say that they've traveled through the solar system, is this biological human beings or are these drone crafts? Like, what are they saying?
I never got any of that. All I was told is there's some of the UAPs that are seen, that have been seen by our astronauts on space missions, are non-human intelligent life, and some are reverse engineered craft. That's what I was told.
But we don't know whether there's a person inside of them.
I don't.
If they are reverse engineered and they are ours, and we figured out how to make our own.
That I don't know.
Yeah, I need to know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Is there fucking some dude named Bob flying through space? Some Top Gun guy that they've given the task of traveling to Venus real quick?
Wouldn't surprise me. One of the other things that, we were talking about Clapper and Ruby and what they said about China. Something else that they both said, despite these guys being completely ideologically opposed, right? Like they have nothing else in common. They both spoke to how we as a species, not just our country, but the entire human species, is held back by this. The fact that there's something in the human psyche that says I can't prepare for or wrap my head around something I haven't experienced yet.
Right.
And how that leads to strategic surprise because you're not preparing for something that can ultimately end up happening. And Rubio makes great examples. He says, we didn't think the Japanese could torpedo us at Pearl Harbor until they figured it out, and they did, right? We didn't think that terrorists were going to come here and learn how to fly commercial airplanes and use them in a terror attack until they did. And with this, he's like, we don't want strategic surprise to lead to a disaster on this front. We need to be ahead of it. And he very powerfully says that, often strategic surprise changes the course of human history.
So this is the question. If we have craft that we can travel through the solar system, we meaning someone in the United States of America, does China, do they have the same ability right now? Is there an understanding of where they're at in the race versus us?
Everyone who talked about the race with China was extremely concerned about how close they were. And multiple people talked about how these incursions over our sensitive bases and nukes could, in fact, be reverse engineered Chinese craft. So it is a scary situation. I mean, look, you can ask the average person a common sense question. Knowing what you know about the dynamic between China and the United States, would you be okay if they were the only country that had a nuclear weapon? The answer is no, right?
Right.
So would you want them to be the only country that has technology more powerful than a nuclear weapon that could be weaponized in a way that's more destructive than a nuclear weapon? No.
But what technology do they have, other than the ability to travel? What other observed technology do they have?
Well, if you weaponize this technology, like let's just take something like the Tic Tac.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you could
travel
take something like that
anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and put a nuclear weapon in there.
Right. You would have a nuclear weapon that goes off in less than a second on the other side of the world.
It's completely undetectable
to
any sensor system. You can't react to it.
Yeah.
Bad news. It also, these vehicles display the ability to be transmedium, so you could put a nuke through any environment. It's very scary.
Well, so transmedium, does that mean, I know that it can go in the air and in the water, but does that mean it can go through actual physical objects?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things, and one of the crazier Jacques Vallée stories that I've read a few of his books, and one of the more bizarre ones, this woman found this object on her property, some large property. I want to say it's Nevada. I forget where it was, California, Nevada. But anyway, this egg-shaped large object, and that as it took off, it flew through the trees. Yeah. She said it didn't disturb the trees; it just went right through them.
Yeah. So look, one of those. If you remember in the film, there's this great scene where Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis were two of the senior scientists involved with the government UAP programs. They break down how they figured out how these craft work and how they are warping space-time in a localized area, and they're basically creating a bubble that the craft operates in, and the bubble separates the craft from the environment around it. The environment becomes irrelevant. So it can move through physical space, could move from air to space to the water, frictionless. There's no splash. Like the environment outside the bubble is irrelevant. They're creating their own space-time essentially. They're warping space-time and creating a bubble around the craft. And when you start to think about how that could be weaponized, it's really terrifying.
And what is he saying that they're using? Like, how are they?
He's saying that they're creating an immense amount of energy in this localized area to create the bubble. And there's two prevailing thoughts on how that energy is created. One is they're tapping into so-called zero-point energy, which has only been theorized at this point by humans, right? Or they're using quantum entanglement to pull energy from a far-off source to the local area, the bubble. And that's what they figured out.
And do they have any knowledge of these generators or how they're acquiring this amount of power? What they're using to, how are they harnessing zero-point energy?
No.
But if we've got one and we've back engineered it successfully, clearly someone must know.
Yeah.
So someone knows.
Look, Hal and Eric got very close with the scientists in the Legacy program, and were sharing information, and that got shut down by the CIA. So before it got shut down, they learned a lot about what we've been doing secretly and what we've been figuring out.
Jeez. So it's the fucking CIA.
Well, look, the film reveals that the Legacy program, the craft retrieval reverse engineering program, it has several elements. It's elements of the Air Force, it's elements of the Department of Energy, it's elements of the CIA, and it's defense contractors. And the CIA is the quarterback of the whole thing. The Air Force is used for recovery field work essentially. They have teams that can react fast and go to a site and collect materials and classify it, and they have the aircraft to bring it back to a base.
So they talk about earlier how with all these people involved, like obviously like the Manhattan Project, even the Manhattan Project had leaks and stuff like that, and there's always leaks. And I guess for the most part there still are leaks when it comes to this stuff. Obviously you have Bob Lazar, you have a lot of other people like that have been talking about these things for decades. But this is still a pretty tight-lipped program, if in fact it turns out to be true. I mean, the scale of this. I mean, you're talking about you have sectors of the Air Force that are going out there that are picking these things up, and you have people in energy department, and you have obviously the CIA being secretive that is the whole deal. That's the whole point of the CIA, is to be secretive. So that part I understand, but all these other agencies and departments and things like that have to be involved in a situation like this, in just a massive cover up. It's just wild. That is something that is even a possibility.
The defense contractors have the technology, know-how, and the engineering skills to do the reverse engineering. The Department of Energy has laws that can be used to classify the material outside of the president's reach and Congress's reach. They also have people who are experts at anything that gives off a lot of radiation and energy. And then the CIA quarterbacks the whole thing, think of them as like operational control. And this is revealed by a number of people in the film, and every single source I talked to. There were a lot of people, Joe, that I talked to in very senior positions that thought the film was important and the only way to bring the truth out to the public, but they couldn't be on camera. And they guided me, filled in gaps for me, helped me understand the lay of the land. There were some people that told me not to interview. There was a couple people that were sent to me. People wanted to trick me into including them in the film because they were crazy people, and I didn't include them. I got tipped off by people. Don't stay clear of that. That's someone's agenda trying to sink your ship.
Right.
But I had a lot of folks helping. The Senate Intelligence Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee were extremely supportive, and I really don't think I would have been able to pull off making the film I did if not for their help. And Rubio, when I started my process, was the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he had already learned a lot about what has been hidden from Congress, and thought that what I was doing was really the only way to bring it out, because none of these people on their own would go out on a limb by themselves and become subject to ridicule. They don't want to be the one guy out there saying all this extraordinary stuff, right? Not only because there's this antiquated cultural stigma where they could be made fun of or the reputation would be damaged, but there's also this security system around the deeply hidden crash shield program that for years has just targeted anyone who speaks up. And so what I basically put together was a way for them to safely do it and have strength in numbers and be arm in arm with several dozen other people. And once Rubio leaned into that, I just started getting tremendous support from the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee. And then Senator Rounds became very helpful behind the scenes. Intelligence officials who worked this topic, like Jay Stratton and Lou Elizondo and Hal Puthoff, were extremely helpful behind the scenes, opening doors, introducing me to people. I think that this is really the only way we were gonna get this level of information out, by giving people that safety in numbers. And then after this, it's gonna require the kind of amnesty we talked about, because this is only what they can lawfully disclose. There's so much more.
So when it comes to underwater stuff.
Yeah. So they talk about, I'm not exactly sure where the clip is, but it is a super interesting and like kind of makes sense. It's a clip that I have to find because I believe this is going to be the clip that gets sent over to Trump, and he's going to watch it, obviously. And essentially the two of them are basically saying that China is very close, and wouldn't it be embarrassing, or they were kind of like stroking him a little bit. They're basically saying, if you wanted to go down as, the president, how much bigger of a deal would it be if you go up there at the podium and you say, ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States, he walks out up on stage and he gives a speech basically saying that we're not alone in the universe. That would be it. You're talking about history books, or as long as we're going to have history books for. And they were basically saying that, you wouldn't want China to do that, or Russia, or any other country. Like, you would want to be the person that does that, especially considering that from what he's saying here in his discussions with Joe. Obviously, we are the lead. We are the most advanced when it comes to this tech, if it in fact does exist. And given that, you want to be the one that says, we got it, we're here, they're here, and we have to deal with that. Let's move forward. This is a great podcast. It's 2.5 hours long. This was right in the middle, smack in the middle, somewhere about an hour in. But guys, give it a listen. I don't have to promote Joe Rogan because he's Joe Rogan. If you guys want to follow me on the X, please follow me on X6283 Talk on the X if you want to follow me there. I am John Soto. This is SotoCast. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.